we came into the work of this convention, the work of the structure of the church committee, with 40-some proposed amendments that had to do with examining the structures of the church, what's working, what's not working, how the church does its business. That has been the single largest piece of work that the legislative committees on the structure of the church have dealt with. And after hours, days of conversation, debate, we have arrived at a substitute motion that combines the best parts of most of those motions we were presented with, as well as things we heard in extensive testimony. One evening we had a very well attended, I think there were 400 to 500 individuals came, and 40 or 50 of them gave us testimony on their desire for the structure of the church. And we have arrived now at C095, a substitute for the original C095 that was presented to us, which provides for essentially a small, select, blue ribbon panel representative of the whole church, all of its diversity, age groups, and so forth, but to begin to examine structures and to begin to bring forward concrete proposals during the next triennium regarding significant change to the structure of the church.
The choices are task force, a committee, or a commission. In my view, commissions study things, committees meet and spend money, and task forces have a short shelf life. The purpose for a task force is that once the task is done, the group no longer meets. So the task force says, by calling this a task force, we're saying that it has a task to be done, it has a definite shelf life, and once you're done, then you no longer meet, and then we move on to something else.
How significant was that unanimous vote?
I think very significant. That represented hours of prayer, hours of debate, conversation, and people of many different minds coming to be of one mind, and that is that change is needed in the church, and that by having the presiding officers of General Convention select a committee and put that committee to work to bring some of this change into being is going to be the best way to move forward.
Agreement among people with very, very diverse opinions in this day and age throughout our lives in this country is hard to find. And we really started out with very disparate understandings of what was at stake, and to come together across, it's a very complex decision with a lot at stake. And so for me, it meant a witness to excellent conversation and careful listening.
It comes out of a writing group that did an excellent job at listening to in our hearings, but also reading carefully through the different pieces of legislation that were proposed. And I think they offer one piece of the change that people are asking for. It is not the whole thing. We have sent groups off to do this before. We just finished spending 9 years on strategic planning, which died in committee at General Convention, so we don't have a good record. And I think the group was also challenged, therefore, to make sure there was some binding, some teeth, some communication, and some outcomes, and I think they took that as well, which weren't necessarily part of much of the resolution. So I really do feel like we have a solid piece of legislation, and now the question is whether the two houses are eager for change.
I think it will pour a spirit of creativity and possibility in the church that now is the time to move in a different direction, to become, as people have said, a more nimble church, a church that's more responsive to the needs and is not quite bogged down in the vestiges of Christendom.
I think right now we have a sense of urgency created by any number of things. Urgency for evangelism, urgency for mission, outreach, that's both local, contextual, but also global, and we're trying to figure out how to do that together. I think there are some financial pressures in the system, and so all of that creates an urgency within the church that says, wait a minute, the toolkit we brought to this mission context served us well before, but we're missing some things. Maybe we need to throw some things out. And so I think it's a healthy conversation. I think it's, unfortunately, I think that the nature of our system itself means that change is very difficult. But I think that's why it's emerging.